A reading from The Pale King by David Foster Wallace. Everyone hates the boy. It is a complex hatred. A teacher, in whose homeroom the boy suggests a charted reorganization of the coat hooks and boot boxes lining one wall, so that the coat and galoshes of the student whose desk is nearest the door would themselves be the nearest to the door, and the second nearest, and so on, speeding the pupil's egress to recess and reducing delays and possible quarrels and clots of half-bundled kids at the classroom door, which delays and clots the boy had taken the trouble this quarter to chart by statistical incident, with relative graphics and arrows, but all names withheld. This tenured and highly respected veteran teacher ends up brandishing blunt scissors and threatening to first kill the boy and then herself, and is put on medical leave, during which she receives thrice weekly get well cards with neatly typed summaries of the day's class activities and progress in her absence, sprinkled with glitter and folded in perfect diamond shapes. Of course, the cards were from the boy. From Richard Feynman. Surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman. Adventures of a Curious Character. Ordinary fools are all right. You can talk to them and try to help them out. But pompous fools, guys who are fools and are covering it all over and impressing people as to how wonderful they are with all that hocus pocus, that I cannot stand. An ordinary fool isn't a faker. An honest fool is all right. But a dishonest fool is terrible. And that's what I got at the conference. A bunch of pompous fools, and I got very upset. I'm not going to get upset like that again, so I won't participate in interdisciplinary conferences anymore. Dear Mr. Rogers, thank you for telling me that robots don't have feelings. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show. My name is Thomas Hunt. Today is Tuesday, December 11th, 2018. I'm wearing nothing but Bitcoin clothing today. Check it out. I've got my Bitcoin Las Vegas shirt, which someone gave me here in Las Vegas. He's got a website. He put on the shirt. Very smart. Put your website in the logo. It says BTC2203.com. Also got this great sweatshirt in Denver. Has a B on it. And if you look on the back, but you can't really see, but it says Satoshi in Japanese. So I don't know. Interesting sweatshirt I got in Denver. Got this shirt in Las Vegas. Shout out to people who give me free shirts. Screen share button is not working. We can do it. Let's get it started today on Bitcoin Talk Show. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.1%. Oh, it was under 1% just a second ago, but only 1.1% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 3,426, a high of 3,539, and a low of 3,380. That's $1 for 29,747 Satoshis, as we attempt to crack in the wrong direction the 30,000 Satoshi barrier. It's been quite a trip riding these Satoshis. At one point, the 15,000 or around $6,000 Satoshi barrier was almost uncrackable, and we just couldn't seem to crack it. Then at another point, we were at 5,000 Satoshis. So it's been a long ride in the wrong direction. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and a share so that more people will find the show. And join us in the chat down below. We're chatting. Satoshi Nakamoto says, I'm styling and profiling in my Satoshi sweatshirt. Very nice. Just 2 ASIC Bitcoin mining rigs remain profitable in the current markets, according to Cointelegraph. Amid the cryptocurrency market crash, even the newest crypto mining machines are struggling to seal profits for their operators, according to real-time data published by mining profitability data site ASICminervalue.com today, December 11th. AMV is a site that calculates real-time profitability rates for ASIC miners. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it says that even though the eBang E11++, which was released in October of 2018, not that long ago, its profitability is only 53 cents a day. Ouch. You'd have to run the thing all day long, and that's after power. I assume they're including power, to include this to say that it's profit, not just if you're running it. Meanwhile, it looks like all of the Bitmain ant miners would run you at around -10, negative a dollar or so per day. This is cost to run Bitcoin miners, according to this ASIC website, data compiled by Cointelegraph. Does this mean that everyone will stop mining Bitcoin tomorrow? No, a lot of miners are on a different scale. If you're selling your mining profits immediately, if you're selling the Bitcoin or altcoins that you generate immediately, yes, your mining days are likely to come to an end. Just as I said earlier, for people who are living off their Bitcoin, it might be time to get jobs. This is it, right? This is the crypto winter, they're calling it this time. Last time, we just called it, Bitcoin went from 1400 to 200 or from 1200 to 200, and we were just sad. So we didn't have all these fancy terms and these media people that time. It was just quiet. Everything went quiet. But yes, if you're mining on a short-term basis, it's probably going to be unprofitable at these numbers. If you're mining on a long-term basis, remember most of the miners are professionals. They've brought in the money. They've decided, well, we're going to mine for a year or we're going to mine for 6 months. We're going to hold all of the Bitcoin or we're going to sell it all, depending on their strategy, and that they will continue mining. We did see some drops in the hash rate recently, but these were probably planned drops, like I'm saying, due to these long-term miners looking at their mining after a year and a half, whatever it may be, and making their decision based on long-term charts. So it is tough on home miners, but we will see corporate miners and essentially speculative, organized miners keeping it going. Harvard economists. Bitcoin's future value more likely to be $100 than 100K. This is likely one of the same economists who was down on Bitcoin before the alleged bubble and now continues to be down on Bitcoin. He said that there's no reason to panic. Let's see. Bitcoin's. Nevertheless, he dismissed the crypto evangelist view of Bitcoin as digital gold, calling it nutty. Stating the value is more likely to be 100 than 100K. Bitcoin's use is limited to transactions, making it more vulnerable to a bubble-like collapse. Right now, like, everyone's all so short term. He's like, it can't be digital gold. It's only been around for 10 years. It can't do this. It's like, just give us time. Give us time. He says, even if Bitcoin should not be worth zero, he argues that national governments and regulators are gradually waking up to the fact that they cannot countenance large expense to trace transaction technologies that facilitate tax evasion and criminal activity. So once again, the government cannot allow Bitcoin to survive. Therefore, you shouldn't use it. That's a good argument. Tell your friends that. The government, the economists, the banks do not want you to use Bitcoin. So don't tell your friends about it. They say that these governments and banks will take away the Bitcoin near anonymity and no one will want to use it. Advanced economy governments will not tolerate it. Of course, if cryptocurrency shifts and Bitcoin becomes more anonymous instead of less because of changes in the software, purposeful changes, then the opposite would be true. So once again, Bitcoin is not just gold, not just a piece of metal, it's software that can change. So a lot of people see this and this and that's a problem in Bitcoin. Then the software changes and the Bitcoin train just keeps rolling. He says, once again, Bitcoin is lottery tickets that pay off in a dystopian future where they are used in rogue and failed states, or perhaps in countries where citizens have already lost all semblance of privacy. It is no coincidence that the dysfunctional Venezuela is the first issuer of a state-backed cryptocurrency, the Petro. He also says Cuba, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Somalia, Syria, and Russia are turning to cryptocurrencies under the burden of sanctions that have been raised by multiple analysts previously. Not sure how the sanctions raised the analysts. A report earlier this fall indicated that the government of North Korea was laundering crypto into fiat to evade U.S. sanctions. Iran is going one step further, exploring the creation of its own national cryptocurrency, according to a report this summer. So it is interesting to see, much like the early internet was only used by criminals and thieves, the early Bitcoin and early cryptocurrency is only being used by the criminal and thievish countries, as he says, disgruntled nation states. Uh, Interesting to see this developing. Once again, don't use Bitcoin, don't learn about it. This is a message from your government and Harvard economists. 2018 has been a terrible year for Bitcoin. Will that continue in 2019? What's ahead for the king of digital currency after a dismal 2018? I like that, king of digital currency. People are optimistic. They love HODL. Oh, at least it says hold misspelled instead of defining it falsely as an acronym. Yes, it's being tested. The HODL is rough. The HODL is awful. People were saying in the chat, yes, yes, if you HODL and you still have your number of coins, you'll still be fine and you'll get the same amount if it goes back up. That is true. But I think it's very hard to HODL your same number of coins if you had large gains and if you didn't realize them. Next time it goes up, if it goes up, all those kind of things, we're going to be focusing more on not dollar cost averaging in, but also dollar cost averaging out, making sure that you don't go to the top, go back to the bottom, and end up with nothing. Of course, if we do this time, it won't peak downward. It'll just keep going upward. But still, we want to preach safety. We want to preach responsible investing. It's an easy thing to say, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. But it's a harder thing to say, don't let your profits become more than you can afford to lose. Don't lose all of your profits in the ups and the downs. And unfortunately, that's what HODL might have caused people to do. In one way, you have to credit the HODL. You have to say, well, without the HODL, I never would have gotten past 8,000, or I never would have gotten past 10 or 12, which is very true. People see their investment double or quadruple, they freak out, they sell. I know a lot of people that sold Ethereum before it even broke $100, and it broke 1,000. So it's very tough to time these things. I think the best thing to do is 10% at a time, 5% at a time, pick some kind of number, go in and out slowly, go in and out on a schedule, and have a plan. If it reaches this number, I'm going to do this. If it reaches that number, I'm going to do that. And the same thing if you bought, it's sad to think of people on the other side who don't have any profits and are really only losing their investment. If you bought at 18K and it went down too much, as sad as it is, it might have been better to sell some and have some options, just 10 or 20%, instead of just watching it go down the whole way. Once again, though, if you did watch it go down the whole way, the smart move to do, and again, it's a tough move, it's a risky move. We're talking about risk here. You have to judge how much risk is acceptable for you, but the smart thing to do is to get another Bitcoin or whatever you bought at the bottom so that you can average out your costs. If your costs were $18,000 for Bitcoin number one and your costs were $4,000 for Bitcoin number two, well, you add them together, that's 22,000. Divide by two. Now the cost of your Bitcoin is only $11,000. So if Bitcoin goes from 4 to 12, you're back in the profit because you doubled down. Once again, if Bitcoin goes to 2, now you're wrecked again. But still, again, the same strategy. You buy back in, but then it goes down more. Then it goes down more. There's a gambler's fallacy here. There's a will it go back up type question. Certainly, if you're in the casino, there's that idea that you just keep doubling your bet on blackjack. The problem with continuously doubling your bet is that you don't have a big enough bankroll. And after 7 or 10 bet doublings, you'll be out of your realm. So certainly you can't keep buying Bitcoin when it's down forever. But dollar cost averaging, investing a reasonable amount, something you can afford to lose, $100 a month, something like that, is probably the way to go. And the problem is a lot of people are like, no, I stopped the dollar cost averaging because the price went down too much. And it's like, no, you have to get it when it's down because you don't know that it was going down. and you don't know that it was going up. And sure, even if you spend all your time watching YouTube videos and looking at charts and drawing lines and all these kind of things, you still don't really know. When it actually breaks, when it actually happens, you'll be in the market or you'll be out of the market, depending on your risk based decisions. And if you can make a decision 70-30 instead of 100% to zero, at least you could still have 30% of that gain. In the same way, if you're 70-30 out, you only take 30% of that loss. So we just have to think more strategically, more long term, and to take into mind our own unique situation and what we invested for and what we're trying to get. On the other side, some people just believe in Bitcoin. And I'm certainly one of those people. I believe in Bitcoin. So it's very hard to sell from an emotional level, and it's hard to buy from an emotional level, and it's hard to make all these decisions. You just want Bitcoin to be the money, and it's not so much about making lots of money. It's more about getting lots of people into Bitcoin. But one of the downsides of these crazy ups and crazy downs is that a lot of people are broken right now, and they are not into crypto, and they're not into Bitcoin, and they want out. So instead of making a lot of new happy crypto people, we made a small amount of unhappy crypto people. Meanwhile, the people that weren't emotionally attached or the people who had a better plan were able to get in and get out and maybe make lots of money. So they did all right. Forbes says the next leg of the Bitcoin crash is here. So once again, if it's not the stock market crashing, it's Bitcoin. When asset instruments crashes, they go down in stages. Stages are price range when the asset stops and maintains a level of stability before they reprice again to another level. Many markets do this on the way up as well as the way down. Once a market is stabilized, the next break away from that range is highly likely to produce a sizable move. For a trader, this offers a market neutral signal that can be jumped on, long or short. It's not a new phenomenon or rocket science. Markets are consensus seeking devices in the short term, and that consensus is revealed in the charts and gives a clear view of the past. The less efficient and perfect a market is, the more the charts give a hint of the future. And in my mind, crypto is a very immature market filled with inefficiencies and imperfections. As such, charts of price action in Bitcoin and other coins and tokens are a good tool in the alchemy of guessing what is going to unfold in this very exciting and dangerous market. Once again, he says Bitcoin is going to break south. He says we're looking at a $2,500 target quickly dropping, according to his charts. It's a high probability. Let's look closer. You may also like the volatility has exploded at the current level, a sign of an increased uncertainty in a generally bearish state. But you can also see today's action suggesting a drop out of this recent trend. If this fall continues, we're off towards the final capitulation. When will we know we are at the final bottom? When everyone is screaming the end of Bitcoin, and then after an extended period of basing. This means we can all wait and see. The end of this crash looks awful. The ends of crashes always do. That is yet to come, but the next leg could be here. A good article from Forbes, actually. I mean, a little depressing, but pretty straightforward, giving his reasons and including his charts of why he thinks we might see 2,500 before we see Bitcoin go back up. Market watch. Bitcoin moves lower as retail investors increase their bets against the cryptocurrency. Once again, it's easy to bet against Bitcoin when it's going down. It's harder and much more dangerous to bet against Bitcoin when it's going up. And you never know which way it's going to move and how fast. Interesting to see some different designed Bitcoin fake coins there. Once again, the media always makes a physical image of Bitcoin and uses that for their graphic. Maybe someone should design a better digital image of Bitcoin, something that would imply the digital nature of the cryptocurrency instead of these physical coins all the time. Bitcoin's trading lower, down 2%. Da 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 da. Yes, not looking that good. The market-wide sell-up puts the value of all cryptocurrencies below $110 billion, according to data from CoinMarketCap. Keeping an eye on the price of Bitcoin. CoinDesk showing a different side of Bitcoin, saying that Bitcoin is oversold on the weekly price chart for the first time in 4 years. The widely followed 14-week relative strength index (RSI), which oscillates between 0 and 100, is currently seen at 29.8, a level last seen in January 2015. An asset or cryptocurrency is considered to be oversold if the RSI is holding below $30. On the other hand, an above 70 reading indicates overbought conditions. Essentially, the under 30 reading on the 14-week RSI indicates that the recent selling from the highs above $6,200 may have reached a point of exhaustion. As a result, Bitcoin may defend the immediate support at 3,179 in the short run. So that's an interesting analysis there from CoinDesk and Omkar Godbol. Let's check out the view. Bitcoin could drop to the 200-week moving average of 3,179 in the next day or two. That support, however, may hold ground as the 14-week RSI is signaling oversold conditions for the first time since January 2015. A break below the 200-week moving average would bolster the bearish setup as seen in the 3-day chart and open the doors to 2,972, the September 2017 low. A high volume move above the falling trend line on the daily chart would weaken the bearish pressure. A bullish reversal, however, would only be confirmed above 4,400, the November 29th high. So just in general, listening to these two analysts, it doesn't look very good for Bitcoin in the short term. We may see a drop to 2,972. The other analysis picking maybe 2,500, which certainly puts perhaps 1,200 into play. We long had support at 1,200 years ago. After 1,200, I only remember 300. And if we hit 300, and if we see 120, and if we see $30, and if we see a dollar again, then I'm going to buy a lot of Bitcoin for a dollar. But then we'll probably see 30 cents. I don't know. Not a good chart for Bitcoin, despite the oversold on weekly conditions. CoinDesk, a rare bit of short-term bullishness in the midst of all this dropping. Just looking at the CoinDesk chart here in the corner, Bitcoin down 3%, Ethereum down 3%, Ripple down 1.5%, Bitcoin Cash down 7%, Litecoin down about 5%. So we've got rain, 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 and more rain. Proof of Keys wants you to get your Bitcoin off exchanges on January 3rd. And it's nice to see Trace Mayer's new movement for January 3rd getting some press here in the Bitcoinist. Excuse me. Excuse me. As we mentioned yesterday, Trace is trying to get everyone to hold their own private keys and not to store their funds on exchanges. He's also testing the exchanges to see if they actually have the Bitcoin that they say they have, or if they're running a fractional reserve. Remember, if we took all of our Bitcoin off of all of the exchanges, then there should be no Bitcoin left on the exchanges. The problem is if the exchanges are running fractional reserves, saying they say they have a Bitcoin, maybe I deposit one, then they say sell it to two people. Now, all three of us are sharing the same Bitcoin. Only one of us can withdraw that Bitcoin. So by doing this January 3rd, test the exchanges day, perhaps we could get closer to what we've wanted for years, which is cryptographic proof of exchange reserves. Just as you can look at my Bitcoin fundraising account and find out that I've almost raised no money, if you could look at the Coinbase account where they keep their cold storage, you could see that they have X number of Bitcoin in cold storage. If you could see their hot wallet, if you could see their cold wallet, so on and so forth, we could understand these exchanges and we could see in a provable way that they are not running fractional reserve Bitcoin. as the exchanges have not offered this, events like Trace Mayer's January 3rd Satoshi Run proof of keys event, take your Bitcoin off the exchanges day, are a good way to test these exchanges and let them know which features we as users want. So if you think proof of exchange reserves is an important feature, you should withdraw your Bitcoin on January 3rd. If you're a new person and you think it's a risk to withdraw your Bitcoin and you haven't secured and set up your Trezor or Ledger or hardware wallet yet, it's a great time to do so. Go ahead and order a new Trezor or Ledger. I suggest you buy them directly from the company so that there's no shenanigans in between. I've heard bad things about people buying hardware wallets off of eBay, or ones that were used, or ones that didn't have the tamper proof sticker or had a fake tamper proof sticker. So make sure you buy a hardware wallet direct from Trezor or Ledger, and this would be a great time, even if you don't move all of your money, just to put $100 into a cold wallet to try it out, and like Trace says, to test these exchanges. Check that out, January 3rd. I'm sure we'll be talking about this as we roll up towards the proof of keys event. Bloomberg opinion. Yes, Bitcoin was a bubble and it popped. Millennials, like generations before them, just got a painful lesson about speculation. It's very true. And of course, he's quoting the stock market, saying the stocks have reached a permanently high plateau and that the stocks would never crash. Of course, days later, stocks lost 89% of their value. McAfee continued to fight for Bitcoin on December 7th, 2017, a year ago. He said, Bitcoin now at 16,600. Those of you in the old school who believe this is a bubble simply have not understood the new mathematics of the blockchain, or you did not care enough to try. Bubbles are mathematically impossible in this new paradigm. So are corrections and all else. So, tragically bad tweet from Mr. McAfee. And of course, a few days later, Bitcoin's price briefly peaked at 19,511 before eventually losing 82% of that value. So, very rough time for the millennials, for the Bitcoiners, for people that didn't sell, which is pretty much most everybody. And remember, if everyone had sold, there'd be an even bigger dip. It would have dipped, all the way down to here much faster, which would have looked much worse. So, as even the author here, Bitcoin, is it dead? Not necessarily. The cryptocurrency has recovered from several previous bubbles and crashes, including one in 2011, which was just about as devastating. And this is often what I've talked about, the 2011 Bitcoin bubble. Let's see, where did it get started? Well, this went all the way up to 30. Oh, yeah, this is even before my time. Original Bitcoin bubble. So it started out around $1 a coin, went to 30, woof, and then right back down to about $3 a coin. So what's interesting here is you see once again, $3, it never returns to a dollar. So all these people that got Bitcoin for $1 rode it to 30 and dropped back down to 3, still at triple their money. So not that bad. Let's see if they have another Bitcoin bubble here. Oh, come on. He was doing so well. There's been I wanted to see the 1400 one, but it was about the same. Bitcoin ran up really fast to $1,200 and then zoop right back down to 200. So, as he says, people hodled all the way up and all the way down. They still had triple of what it was before the end. And if they sold some of their holdings near the peak, they're in even better financial state. So once again, the guy here is saying it's okay if you didn't sell it all in the last bubble. Maybe there'll be another bubble to sell you and to save you again, and that you're still generally up. Even right now, if you got Bitcoin in the 1200 range, you are still up. Even at 2500, you would be double. But it is getting worse. Not everyone wants a Bitcoin ETF. People are talking about how the Bitcoin ETF would bring more money into Bitcoin. Meanwhile, others don't think the ETF would improve Bitcoin's liquidity, including Nick Bhatia. who's the working on the Lightning Network reference rate and the idea that we could get perhaps a small amount of interest off of loaning our money on the Lightning Network, and that this could create an entire new system, including derivatives and borrowing and so on and so forth. It's a very cool idea, and we've talked to Nick about it a couple of times here on the World Crypto Network. So check out those videos right here on our channel. You can subscribe. You could search for Nick or search for Lightning reference rate, stuff like that should come up. But the ETF is very dramatic. We have seen the decision pushed back to February as expected. However, February is the final decision. So the SEC is going to have to make a decision if they're going to allow a Bitcoin ETF or if they're going to kick the can down the road. Not allowing it would leave it banned for at least several years as the market recovers and attempts to fix the problems that the SEC has found. Last time, the SEC said that the Bitcoin market was too volatile, obviously something we haven't fixed. They also said that the custodial situation was not acceptable. The Winklevi famously applied for an ETF, but the Winklevi were holding the asset, they were determining the value of the asset, and they were the ones selling the asset. It just seemed like there were too many Winklevi in that presentation. The new presentation by Van Eck is in many ways a much more professional presentation with multiple parties being involved in holding the asset, pricing the asset, and selling the asset. We hope that the Bitcoin ETF will be approved in February. I think it'll bring more money into Bitcoin. People will be able to invest with their retirement. Other people will be able to invest as a speculator using normal stock market apps that are used to them. All the different tools will be there, shorting, longing, market orders, limit orders, all these kind of things will all be available to them. And they can do it in a convenient way. Once again, though, the other side, to put up another argument, they say it could allow for more manipulation of Bitcoin as more evil Wall Street money enters the space and then does what Wall Street money does. Market watch. Bitcoin bear market is far from over. Bitcoin Cash hovers around $100. Who cares? Once again, price dropped 10% again, blah, blah, blah. Analysts are saying Bitcoins have gone well beyond the ridiculous of tulip bulb mania. It's great to see tulips again. Could go bad to worse with no fundamental or underlying reasons to buy Bitcoin. Dun, dun, dun. Altcoins were also lower on Monday, with Ethereum going down 3%, Litecoin down 4%, and Bitch down about 7%. Markets fail to hold yesterday's gains. Bitcoin trades below 3,500. Ouch. It's not even Bitcoin in the picture, though. Picture doesn't make any sense. Once again, big reds on the chart. That coin 360 thing that shows you the greens and the reds, it's pretty much all red. Unusually large miner selling may have crashed Bitcoin price, not fundamentals. That's right. It might have been large miner selling. A Bitcoin price crash may have been sparked by an unusual uptick in miner selling to finance the bitch hash war, according to BitMEX research. Meanwhile, other metrics reveal that the recent price decline is disproportional with Bitcoin market fundamentals. So it may have been the hash war. I remember before the hash war, we did see a large amount of Bitcoin moving from a cold wallet where they had been frozen for many years into perhaps an exchange. If this money was moved to an exchange, it may have been sold on the exchange. As BitMEX research says, miners may have sold Bitcoin in order to finance an expensive hash war between Bitcoin Cash ABC and Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's vision. The conflict saw both Craig Wright and Jihan Wu threaten to sell their Bitcoin to offset any losses if necessary. So, what they're saying here is that the large miner selling may have broken the Bitcoin chart, convincing all of the chart heads that the Bitcoin chart had actually broken. This would be a false break of the Bitcoin chart. So the chart heads would follow like lemmings, causing it to sell below the triangle. The price would go below the triangle, but not because of fundamental reasons. This is an alternative viewpoint at this point. Adam Back writes on Twitter, the case for Bitcoin as a Swiss banking competitor from Tour de Meester. As Obama said, a Swiss bank account in your pocket. Bitcoin has no minimums. It also has a 500K, also versus a 500K minimum for offshore private banking. Mr. Back has a great point here. At 500K minimum, I don't think any of us could get an offshore private bank, but you could always get some Bitcoin. And it's a great little document put together here. You can check it out on Tour de Meester's Twitter, challenging Bitcoin, challenging Swiss bank accounts, exhibiting private offshore wealth could be a good plan for Bitcoin. A great new way for rich people to hold their money, just like in the white paper. So the dream is alive. Well, maybe not, but still it shows that Bitcoin is a useful and valuable thing, and that one of the values is a potential central bank gold, because central banks should hold a portion of Bitcoin in their reserves as a complement to gold if Bitcoin matures into an accepted store of value. The amount held by central banks could potentially increase if a portion is also stored as foreign exchange reserves. However, this is largely dependent on whether Bitcoin becomes widely viewed as an alternative reserve currency to government issued fiat currencies. Estimating an exact dollar figure for the total value of Bitcoin central banks and monetary institutions may eventually end up holding is unlikely to be accurate at this stage, which is why we use rather conservative assumptions, given the projected amount of gold reserves held by central banks these days, today. And they're saying if banks would hold 10% of Bitcoin, it would go to 16,000. That's the probability. And then the market share. If banks held 25% of Bitcoin, it could go to 40,000. If they held 50% of Bitcoin, it could go to 80,000. There's also a variety of probabilities where it could go from 16 to 122, from 40 to 300, from 80 to 600, from 120 to 900. So basically, for the theory of this document, the more Bitcoin captured by the banks, the more valuable the Bitcoin. So it's a bit rough for original hodlers who probably wanted this money to be captured by people, normal people. Drinking some more water. And value potential, putting the pieces together. You can check out more of this document on Tour de Meester's Twitter, link on Adam Back or Mad Bitcoin's Twitter page. Cameron Winklevoss says, in 2018, everyone wanted to be in crypto. In 2019, we will find out who really wants to be in crypto. Good point from the Winklevi. We'll see who's left. And public service announcement, do not listen to headphones on your cell phone while it is charging. Tell your friends. That is all. And there's been another sad story. A teenager in Malaysia was found dead with blood coming out of his ears. A 16-year-old has died after being electrocuted by his headphones. So once again, do not plug your phone into the wall, then plug your headphones into your phone. You're creating a connection between the wall, the phone, and your head. So don't do that. If your friends do that, ask them not to do that. I mean, I'm sure this is more of a threat in the developing world where these could have been questionable knockoff headphones. This could have been a power surge from a bad electrical system. This could have been jerry rigged. There's a lot of things that went into this, but just in general, I don't think it's a good idea to listen to headphones on your cell phone while it is charging. According to Apple Screen Time, says Peter McCormick, I will spend 8.5 weeks this year on Twitter and Candy Crush. A sobering reality check. It's time to make some life choices, which starts with disabling screen time. I hear that. I've been kind of using screen time the opposite way. I've been rooting for myself to get more screen time. Last week it said you're up 300% compared to last week, and I cheered. But maybe I'm not understanding how to use the program. Maybe I'm not using it properly. BTC King 555 on Twitter writes, as tweeted earlier, Bitmain is heavily cutting costs, laying off people, and starting to sell bitch. With no IPO and USA Roadshow a disaster, one prominent fund manager saying, we just don't trust your numbers. Capital markets for Bitmain are closed. And we continue to keep an eye on this situation. Everyone knows Bitmain, one of the largest and biggest miners in the space, attempted to take over Bitcoin with the UASF and the SegWit wars of the No 2X movement, so on and so forth, and eventually got their way with Bitcoin Cash, their very own clone of Bitcoin, perfectly compatible with their ASIC boost machines. However, they didn't quite get what they bargained for, as Craig Wright, aka Fake Satoshi, who also broke off with them to create Bitcoin Cash, broke off once more to create Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's vision, creating now 3 different Bitcoins at least. This battle continued and drained Bitmain's resources, as well as their decision to sell an incredible amount of Bitcoin for an incredible amount of Bitcoin Cash. These decisions have left the company in a tough financial state. They're allegedly attempting to use this IPO to get out of trouble. However, their failure to include all of the quarters in their IPO documents led to a state of mystery. Once the missing third quarter data was found, it didn't look like a very good investment. We're keeping an eye on Bitmain. It's one of those stories. It's on both sides. Is it good for Bitcoin if Bitmain shuts down? Yes, in some ways they were a bad actor, but in other ways they're a major Bitcoin mining manufacturer. They produced quality hardware for years, which they actually shipped, unlike Butterfly Labs. And it would be a bad story for Bitcoin if they go. So we're on both sides of this. We're keeping an eye on the Bitmain story. This is a major story in Bitcoin. And as always, you can support this show by donating at patreon.com/madbitcoins. 57 patrons are helping us raise $368 a month to keep this show going. You can also donate at Tallycoin, where our Tallycoin fundraiser has raised $272 towards our goal of $2,000. We're 13% there. You can donate now with the Bitcoin QR code on your screen or with the address down below. We had a new donation yesterday. We've had 23 donations. You can join the 23 donors who support this show. Thanks to yesterday's donor, 0.00297258, as well as our previous donors from the 6th and the 4th, 0.00694827, 0.00229915, and 0.0025555536. That's about it for the news here on Bitcoin Talk Show. We're going to go ahead and open this up to you now. If you would like to call the show, you can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or on the telephone at 518-600-1949. Looks like we've got about 75 viewers out there. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Thumbs up are free. And the way that YouTube judges videos is the videos with the more thumbs up are the videos that YouTube shares. So the more thumbs up you give us, the higher we go on the list, the more likely we are to get more people to watch the show. Then more people will call into the show, and we'll all have a better show. Just drinking a little water there, trying to keep the old voice going. If there's no one around to call in, we might chat with the chat for a little bit and maybe have a shorter Bitcoin talk show than usual. But it's just good to check in. I know these are hard times. We're going through the crypto winter. It's getting dark and cold out there. They're starting to say that the ASIC miners are unprofitable, and they're really starting to doom and gloom the old Bitcoin all the way down. And we'd hate to see that. So we've got to stop that. We've got to turn it around. We've got to say, hey, Bitcoin's all right. Bitcoin's fun. It's still there. I was talking to Jeremy before the show. He said ASICs are profitable. You get free electricity and cooling if you get free electricity and cooling. Good point there. I said I was actually going to talk about ASIC shoes, Jordan sneakers, sneakerheads. We were watching some British Parliament. Somebody took the mace. That was pretty exciting. Once again, we're recommending yes, minister, and yes, prime minister. Jeremy's saying the show will start soon. And then the show did. We were saying maybe we should get me one of those giant Bitcoin suits with the orange and all the white bees on it. Jeremy wants me to have one of those giant Bitcoin bee suits with the puffy hands and the big hat. That'd be fun. We were checking out my Satoshi Nakamoto gear earlier. I'm draped in all Bitcoin gear just to try to cheer you guys up. But I haven't been on the camera very much. I might turn that on a little bit for the end. Voltaire says most of the crypto publications like Coindesk are pay to play Ethereum ICO fanboy rags. They hate Bitcoin, but want it to pump. And it is interesting to see that many of the companies who are our friends on the way up are not quite our friends on the way down. They are seeing some down, and we are just seeing it go with them. So, but even their Ethereum went down, even their ICOs went down. It all went down. Yaddle's app says the bubble was all about the influx of buyers. We just ran out of buyers and kept the regular sellers, miners, trader, ICO exits, etc. Hodlers haven't been selling. So he says it was about the influx of buyers. So maybe the way to get Bitcoin to go back is to get more people to buy it. Right now, that's difficult as the price keeps going down. St. Galactus says, I sold and bought all levels. That's the way to do it. You might end up trading against yourself, but if you're always buying and you're always selling, then I don't know. Maybe you're not going to always make profits. Could be tough. Bill says the last run up was more than the running out of buyers. Everyone who remembers buyers were throttled. Banks were refusing to allow the purchases of crypto. Exchanges were refusing new customers, etc. I do agree with Bill. I think people have forgotten this, that during the run up, Bittrex wasn't accepting new accounts. Coinbase was having server problems. The Bitcoin infrastructure that we have that allegedly people have built to handle this kind of thing, with the idea being that eventually they will come, failed. The Bitcoin infrastructure was not there. People were not able to buy. This may have been one of the big things that stopped the run up because this money couldn't get in. And by the time they'd filled out their forms and done their KYC and all these kind of things, the market had turned and they no longer wanted to buy. So that's an interesting one, interesting way to look at it. Voltaire says, Obama seems to have a bank account in his pocket. Not sure how, though. But remember, Obama famously said, Bitcoin is like having a Swiss bank account in your pocket. But he meant that negatively. we think of that as a positive thing, that you could have freedom and privacy and the ability to spend your money and the ability to take your money with you wherever you go and all those kind of things. He saw those as negative. So we need more regulation. Just saying. And let's see what's going on. The mining article doesn't mention anything about the electric cost reference. It had a bit of a reference, but I agree it doesn't say the cost of electricity used in the study. If they were using it at a place, maybe in the US, they might have expensive electricity. If they were mining in China or maybe near a hydroelectric dam, something like that, they might have cheap electricity. So it does affect the price of the mining. It is different. See, the difficulty comes down as those paying more turn off their hardware and Sir Squire's profit goes up. So if you keep mining and everyone quits, yes, your profits will go up. Casso says he loves the pretend English accent that Thomas can do. Me too. Rolando says, Thomas, do some beard grooming videos. Nothing interesting in Bitcoin these days. He's got a good point there. Bitcoin has been a little slow. I remember everything's a little slow. A lot of people are taking their vacation right now or getting ready for their vacation. So they've already taken their vacation, even though they're still at their desk. I remember this phenomenon quite a lot from working in an office. The office is full of candy. Everyone's giving out leftovers. It's all happening right now. Christmas time, cookies every day, nothing but weight gaining and sitting around. All the people that you need to make. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas, this is Dan from Grand Rapids. How are you?
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Good. Hey, I've got a question for you. The one thing I don't understand is that, the price hasn't been this high for that long. I mean, it was really the beginning of 2017 that it hit even just $1,000. Um, so I guess I don't understand why mining was affordable or profitable then, but it's not now. And I just that's a disconnect for me. You know what I mean? Is everybody's all of a sudden worried about the price dropping and that mining won't be affordable. So, do you know why that is or how that works?
Well, I would assume the way the difficulty works is that the difficulty probably went up more. So as the price was going up, it was okay to mine at say 3,000 or 6,000. But when the price went to 8 and 10, maybe more people bought miners, more miners came on the network, so the difficulty number went up. Then when we flipped over the price, maybe we didn't keep adding miners, but we're still at that high level of miners keeping the difficulty problem really difficult. We haven't dropped maybe enough miners to make the problem easy enough to solve again at the $3,000 level. That would be my guess. What do you think?
So really, it's just a matter of that the once the difficulty adjusts to the capacity of the miners, then it will be once again profitable to mine Bitcoin, right?
Absolutely. If we keep not having miners and the hash rate keeps going down, then the problem keeps becoming easier to solve. So it's supposed to keep the same kind of ratio. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but let's say it's supposed to be 10%. So when it gets up to 12, because we have too many people mining, it goes back to 10. But when it goes down to 8, because we have too few people mining, it goes back up to 10. So it's keeping this equilibrium of the difficulty of the problem, so we're always maintaining there. So we may be in a, it's all about the psychology of these miners. We were talking earlier about if they're paying electricity cost versus if they have a long-term plan and they're just following their plan. The short-term miners are probably going to have to drop off. If enough short-term miners drop off, like the guy in the chat said, he starts profiting more. Everyone who keeps going. If that happens,
Right.
well, we go back to an X and we cross again, and then it drifts the other way. So
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I just hear about. I think the only risk that I can foresee is that if we're at a particular difficulty and we there are enough miners pulled off the network that essentially it would take years to find the next block or something like that. um, then that would be a problem. But I, it to me, it's not in the economic interest. I mean, if you're a miner and you just slowly bleed miners off of your network, then you're going to keep Bitcoin alive and you're also going to make it more profitable for yourself in the long run. Plus, I know that I can't remember which show I was watching. It was possibly yours, where somebody mentioned there are miners that are being run where it's all profit, right? It's essentially people are wasting or destroying energy if they're not using it for mining. So even if they make $1 off of the miner, then they're not wasting it. So to me, it seems like it's a concern that people are talking about the death spiral, where it's just not really a concern. Although, do you think if the hash rate got low enough between difficulty adjustments where it did take, a year to find the next block, do you think that the devs would be able to step in then and maybe do something like the BCH team did with the every block adjustment or something like that?
it is possible they could have a software solution, but we talked about this same problem during the original BCH split. One of the fears then is that the way that they split, they could have pumped up the difficulty adjustment, so it's a really hard to solve problem. Then they all could have left in mass. So if, say, 80% of the miners left, you only have 20% working on a problem that takes 100% to solve. So it's going to take much, much longer to solve. Once it's solved, the difficulty adjustment only happens every so many blocks. So if you can't solve those blocks, it's going to take even longer to get to the difficulty adjustment. And this is one of the ways they were hoping to perhaps cripple Bitcoin, because an unsolvable block means that you can't send your transactions, and our 10-minute transaction time becomes an hour, it becomes a day, it becomes 2 days. It could get worse and worse. So that was the initial fear of the death spiral. I think this one is, again, a fear of price. So if you were a short-term miner mining because of the price and you're selling to pay your electricity, you're in trouble, right? You've been struggling along, you've been in denial, you've been trying to keep it going, but the point has broken through. Maybe 6,000, maybe, God forbid, 3,000, all these kind of things. You're hurting now. So all those people are turning it off. I do agree with you. The people who are mining at, say, a hydroelectric dam, where it's too difficult to get a wire out there to send the power, and it's too expensive to get batteries and to cycle the batteries in and out and to physically move the batteries from that place to where batteries are useful, so on and so forth. They could just plug in miners. It's even possible, if they really do have free electricity, they could plug in old miners. Even making money on an old miner would be better than making nothing. If you have the falling water, if you have the hydropower, stuff that doesn't require that much maintenance. I've heard there's a lot of maintenance on wind power, so you might not be able to cover the maintenance cost, but it's all about, if you have the generators there and you're doing nothing with them, you may as well mine Bitcoin. So those might be our miners of last resort. We might have other miners who believe in Bitcoin philosophically. They won't turn off their miners. Long term, and we've discussed this a lot because a lot of people are worried about this. Even though even though we won't live to see it, a lot of people are worried about 2120, or whenever it is, when the Bitcoin mining reserve reward runs out completely. What will happen to the network? Will it continue to run? And one of the ideas that's been put out there is that Amazon, or a company like it, might be using Bitcoin for their transactions by then, or Lightning, or another layer of Lightning, or so on and so forth. But they'll have a vested interest in keeping the network running. So they might run the network out of, the interests of their company, not necessarily the profitability of the network. The other idea is that the fees could continue to rise, so they could mine it to get the fees. But really, mining resorts, all these kind of things, that's 100 years away. So we've got a lot to get through before we get there.
Well, and I guess I think everybody needs to keep in mind the adjustment algorithm, right? Because it's I know that we've had these debates, especially with EOS, about what is decentralized and how much decentralization do you really need. And from what I see, I feel like the Bitcoin network is, again, very, very layman viewpoint, but it feels over secure to me. That we have this incredible hash power securing payments, which is extraordinarily important. But those payments aren't being used for government purposes right now. They're not being used to buy battleships or millions of barrels of oil. And so if the security of the network even gets cut in half to like today, and the difficulty were adjusted, I believe that those payments would still be very secure, because you have to figure out, like, well, for a payment of $100, I don't know, I maybe need a network that has 21 nodes. But for a payment of $100 billion, I want maybe 21,000 nodes. So I think right now the hash power coming off, it's not good. It's not good for that particular industry. It's not good for the sentiment of Bitcoin. But I don't anticipate it being a death blow, or even a scratch for the actual network itself, because the incentives don't align. And even if we say, okay, well, we pull off half of the network right now, half of the miners today, we get a block every 10 minutes until the difficulty adjustment, or every 20 instead of every 10, we still get
It might not just be a doubling in the adjustment. It might be much worse. It might be more like 10 and 100. So, but I'm just saying.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
so
not
it's
sure it's
more
just a
like,
straight doubling in the problem. But I would agree. I think two of the, not really secrets, but two of the well-known things that no one talks about is that Bitcoin works even if the price goes lower, as long as there's enough mining to secure the network. So we might have too much price and we might have too many miners, but that would be both disastrous if they dropped off. But the idea being that I could send you $100 in Bitcoin, even if it's worth $1, you could presumably, as long as it's good for the length it takes for me to send it to you and you to cash it out, we could still do business. I could send you $100. It would work. That's one thing on the price. That also works on the miners if we're not in a hurry. If I need to pay you by tomorrow and I send you $100 in Bitcoin in today and the price is steady enough and the miners are slow and you get it tomorrow, it still works out. The problem we were having, I think, during the spam crisis, where there was all that spam in the network, is that it became more expensive to use Bitcoin and it became slow to the point that it was unreliable, where we couldn't count on it being there tomorrow, especially if I didn't pay the right fee or the fees were moving too quickly, things like that. So there are issues there, but the network is generally flexible, but it's not flexible in a way that we'd like it. People would like to say, well, Bitcoin never goes below 2000 because it doesn't work below 2000 and we're all going to be fine. In reality, Bitcoin keeps working below 2000. Bitcoin, the network, doesn't care about the price and it doesn't care about the hash rate until we get low enough to the point where people are 51% attacking us. If you look at the big chart of who can 51% attack Bitcoin, even right now, we've had some drops. I still think it's, US government, Chinese government, a consortium of banks, maybe banks working together, not even an original, just one bank. If it keeps falling, smaller governments could attack it, smaller banks could attack it. If it keeps falling, we could see it like Bitch or one of these altcoins where anyone could attack it. MIT could attack it. The Chinese version of MIT could attack it. The Russian version, so on and so forth. Anyone that has a decent amount of computer power. So that's kind of our level that we need to stay above. So
I mean, at the same time, I do think that the incentive to attack it, I guess in my mind, is balanced out with the incentive to use it. If we get the U.S. government, a small government somewhere, the Chinese government, if some government starts using it for transactions, then I would assume that government would then have to. They wouldn't have to. It would be wise to also add more hash power to the network, because if I'm making $100 million transactions, I want to make sure that $100 million transaction is secure. Then maybe I need to add a few terahashes to the network to do my part in making sure that is secure and that someone else can't attack it. So I would see the incentive to destroy it being the same as the incentive to use it, and that hopefully that will just add hash power as time goes by.
well, you got to figure if they started out with a plan, they're going to 51% Bitcoin, and they start setting up all their machines and they start making money from mining and they start thinking about what the transactions could do, that they could just allow people to pay their taxes through Bitcoin and keep the miners running. There's a certain
Right.
sense of they have to be kind of evil geniuses like Bond villains, where the Bond villain always explains, he's like, we built this incredible company and we're making millions of dollars a year, and now we're going to use those millions of dollars for a space laser to destroy the planet. Like, why don't you just keep making money? You got this company, you're doing really well. Like the evil plan part doesn't make any sense, but still people do evil plans, like maybe just to destroy Bitcoin would be the reason. So the government wouldn't care that they're burning all the money, or the bank in this example wouldn't care that they're burning all that money and that that potential is going away, because their goal, maybe not a logical one, is greater than the amount of money or what they could do with that money. So
I see. So sort of a some people just want to see the world burn scenario.
there it is. And then the fear now, I think about this death spiral or mining death spiral, is the same old Bitcoin's never coming back fear. Bitcoin's not useful, not valuable. Oh, well, they're going to turn off their miners and they're going to turn off their miners and they're going to, which is the same thing we happened with the traders. When we broke through that triangle, it might have been due to this B cash selling for the war, people getting their money ready. It might have just been due to something else entirely. But as soon as we broke the triangle, all the traders followed. So if the miners are using the same system as the traders, they're vulnerable to someone pushing it down and them just blindly following. Because again, we all are looking at these old charts. We're all looking at the past, and we're trying to determine the future from the past. And the miners aren't necessarily any better than the traders or the speculators or us dumb hodlers or anybody else in predicting the price. So we just have to see how that goes. And then there'll be adjustments when they all freak out and turn their miners back on, or if they turn them off. So, but if there's too many adjustments in the wrong way, and if you don't believe in Bitcoin, which these article people never believe in Bitcoin, then yeah, we could see some kind of death spiral. It would be super dramatic though.
Well, I think the other thing for people to keep in mind is that, you know, mining is not, it's not a hobby for people. I mean, I don't know any miners personally, and I don't do it myself, but it is a business. It's an industry. You know, if you just listen to somebody like I think Francis Pouliot or somebody like that, these are not people that willy nilly turn miners on and off because they're, you know, they're having a panic attack about the price. They do it in a logical manner. They do it in a thoughtful manner, and they don't want to see their business burn. So they're going to do everything that they can do to keep everything online. And again, it's this. They know when the difficulty adjustment changes, and they will move things on and off the network based on their profitability, and if it makes sense for them. I mean, I really think that if a major business said, "Oh, well, we can turn off all of our miners and destroy the network today, or we can turn off a quarter of our miners and in 2 weeks see if maybe we're a little bit more profitable, and then turn off another quarter of our miners and see if we're profitable," because there it's not going to be a situation where it's all of a sudden it falls off a cliff and the whole thing just burns in the fire. It's just, I think people are panicked and people are worried, and that all makes sense. But I feel like the mining situation and what it costs to mine, um, again, we haven't been at this price level for very long, and the mining industry, it takes time to adjust to this stuff. You know, you've got to, if you've ever been someone that's ordered a miner, and I've known people that have ordered miners or something, or cloud mining, or it takes months. It takes months to get that thing online. You have a relatively long-term plan for it. It's not a I'm going to turn it on today and turn it off tomorrow kind of thing. So I don't see the hash power disappearing fast enough for the difficulty adjustment to not be able to catch up and making mining profitable again.
Definitely. And I agree with We Smoke Bitcoins, who says in the chat, the same group of people say the same thing every cycle. So we have heard this before about the mining cycle and the death spiral and the end of Bitcoin and all these kind of things. It gets really dramatic. And that's part of what we have to remember looking at this in hindsight, looking at the McAfee quote. When we were at the top at 16K, everyone was saying we will always stay at the top. We're going to see 32,000. We're going to see 50,000. We're going to the real moon, you know, the moon where we're looking at different groups of joiners right now. The early people, like before 2013, before 2012, they're probably all doing fine. They don't care. But this one, if it had broken through to 50 and 100,000, there's a chance that 2013, 2014, 15 group could have started to do really well. And again, I'm rooting for those people because that's the Mad Bitcoins audience right there. If we can all
Mhm.
raise all of these boats up, there could be a lot more couches to crash on and so forth. But we didn't hit it, right? We went right back down the other way. And it's worth remembering how we felt in the time. We felt unstoppable then, and we feel completely stoppable now. So something about the bottom. And then, of course, at the bottom, you're more freaking out that it would go to zero than you're saying this is a good buying opportunity. So you have to remember that's why only some people survive these things. That's why only some people make the right decisions, because the general groupthink is completely different. All the people who are like, if only Bitcoin would go to 10, if only it would go to 6, I'm going to buy some. They're looking at it 3, like, I'm never going to buy any. That's insane. 3 is so terrible. And then when they see it bounce back to 6 or 10, they still won't buy because they think it's bad from last time. And then it's just that whole thing. You psych yourself out of it. So I would say try to buy 10%, try to sell 10%, try to make smaller decisions that don't stress you out so much. And to remember, theoretically, we're in this big log chart, and that every time Bitcoin goes up, it goes down, and then it goes up and it goes down. And some of us don't learn this even after multiple times. But the theory is that somehow, someday, the Bitcoin goes back up. So.
Well, and I think there's two directions. It's like, I cannot imagine a world in which Bitcoin goes to zero and becomes worthless. Somebody somewhere in the corner of their bedroom is going to be running a miner at some point. Um, so to say the network isn't going to work is just, to me, not feasible. And so then you have to look at the other side of the coin, right? Well, if it's not going to be zero, what is it going to be? Because if zero is not an option, is it going to go down to 1,000 like in the next couple of months? Maybe. And we should all be mentally prepared for that and emotionally prepared for that. But is it going to stay there for long? Is it ultimately in 5, 10, 20 years going to be the de facto currency of the world? I think there's a lot of potential there. I have a hard time believing that it's just going to stay somewhere in between, right? And just be like this. To me, it's like the internet. If you look at the internet, there are some people in the world that are not using the internet, that don't have access to the internet. But it's only clawing its way out to those outer fringes. And I know that for me, I couldn't think of life without it. It'd be really weird. I grew up without the internet, and I can't remember what it was like to not be able to Google something, much less nowadays just ask Alexa. Um, so I see a future where that is the case. But I'm gonna get off and let other people call. I did want to let you know that I think that it's great that you've been doing these kind of I don't know, emotional support shows. It's important for people to know that they are not alone, and everybody feels like they should have. If only I had sold at the top, I would have been able to do this, that, and the other thing with my money. And now that's all gone, and I've lost all this stuff, and I have so much regret and so much pain. And people just have to remember that, one, you're not alone, and two, that it is against your human nature to do it. It's against your human nature that when something is flying so high that you're like, okay, now's the time to get out. And don't blame yourself, don't curse yourself. And if you go through life only considering the what ifs, it's a really torturous life. So I just wanted to thank you for reminding everybody that not selling at the top is simply a part of the human condition. Don't beat yourself up about it. You might want to reevaluate what you're going to do now if you've over leveraged your position, if you've put in more than you can afford to lose. But you really have to consider that today, and not consider that from the past. So, just because you bet on black and lost 5 times does not necessarily mean that now it's time to place a bet on red. So again, I just appreciate the emotional support from the World Crypto Network. So I'm gonna drop off, but thanks for everything, Thomas. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Dan, for your call.
Yep.
Definitely agree with that. We're trying to provide the emotional support. I don't know how much good it does. It doesn't really fix anything, but we've just got to get through this together. We've got to remember you're not alone, that everybody else here didn't sell at the top, wishes they sold more, so on and so forth. Like Dan was saying, psychologically, when things are going up, you are not ready to sell. You want to be part of that up. And then when it started going down, no one believed it was really going down forever. But like Dan was saying, it's hard to determine the price of Bitcoin. I know for sure the price of Bitcoin will be above zero, and I know it'll be below whatever I need to sell it at to get rich. So I know it's in that range. And then we watch it, and we watch it go up and we watch it go down. And it all depends on the usefulness of Bitcoin, people's believed usefulness of Bitcoin, the speculation of Bitcoin, so on and so forth. But it is important to remember, even though we've been through this great adventure, and like Dan was saying, at one point, we might have had the money to buy things. And you might be thinking, I could have had that RV, and I could have had that video game system, and I could have had that new TV, and whatever it was. Yes, we could have had it, but we have to go on together. We have to make up for this. Shout out to Dan, the Crypto Raptor, who gave us 10 pounds in the chat. Very cool. You can donate money using YouTube. You can donate right through the super chat. Give us $5, $10. You can ask your question. This is a great way to get your question to the top of the list. If you really want to ask your question live, super chat. Also, you could ask your question by calling in. Let's see, where's my notepad? I've been having trouble with copy and paste lately. It's really annoying, driving me crazy. But you can call us now at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518 600 1949 on Skype. There we go. It finally pasted it in and it sent it out. So you can Skype us now. They're saying in the chat, the big question, where is the bottom? He doubts that it's under 2K. People are saying now 2,500 is looking like a possibility. We continue to check on the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin, at least on Bitstamp, previously we were looking at Bitcoin average, an average of all the exchanges, is $3,342. So hanging on there on Bitstamp. We had a recent bit of a run. Looks like we went up to about 3,400, but we dropped back now to $3,342. People are saying in the chart, where will they start buying? Some will start buying at 2K, one at $2,800. Remember, these round numbers are dangerous. We were all waiting for 20K. We were all waiting for $2,000 years ago. We're all waiting for these round numbers. They never come. 19.5, that's where we went. We didn't touch 20. So if you had been ready to sell at 18,000, you would have been good to go. So remember, take a little bit off. Don't bet these round numbers. Beat yourself out of that psychological game. Don't let that one beat you. Everyone says, here we go. At Land Camp's got a good strategy. Says he's been buying small amounts since it broke below 4,000. And they're saying, yeah, anything under 3K. Remember that you're averaging out the amount of your purchases. So if you bought one at 10K, you get one at 3K. You could average them out to whatever, half 13. So 6.5, something like that. Maybe 7. 6.5 is pretty close. They're saying 2787, 2.1K. That's right. Put those numbers, mix them up. Yeah, buy it before the other people. Even recently, I had that small voice in my head said, "Hey, maybe you should sell at 6,800 to pay taxes, just in case everyone else starts selling." And then a week later, and it was over. It should have sold already. But you can't control it all. You can't time it all right. Remember, everyone does their best on this, but there's a lot out there. There's a lot of options. But this is Bitcoin Talk Show. We're checking out the chat. As always, you can call us at 518-600-1949. Try to keep the shop going. Try to keep the show going. Saying in the chat, get a job and don't sell. Hodl on. And yes, it might be time to get a job. As Dan, the last caller, was saying, if you had a different plan based on the price of Bitcoin going up, it might be time to reevaluate now that the price of Bitcoin has gone down. It's never too late to make a better plan. A good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. So, but we're keeping the show open, looking for a few more calls. It's around 10:15 in the AM. Keeping an eye on Bitcoin average, where it looks like we've gone down another 0.2 since the show's been on. So we are continuing perhaps a decline in the Bitcoin price. We're checking out the chat. They say Bcash just hit 3% of Bitcoin. Ouch. That's rough. Landcap says you don't want to get left behind when the rocket takes off. That is part of the problem with this market. You say, oh, I give up. It's going down. I'm going to sell it all. Then the market goes the other direction and goes straight up without you. So that's why it's better to sell 70%, to sell 90%, to sell a different number than 100. Don't go 100, don't go 0. Try to, spread it around, take your options. Crypt Loco says, send your Bitcoin to Coinbase, buy things at Costco and Home Depot, get work done around the house, and take everything back to get the cash. Revolutionary technology. That sounds like a pretty good plan. At Landcap says he cannot imagine not working in some capacity, even if he had all the money in the world. Work gives a man purpose. And I feel the same way about this. This is, while so far we're not that successful at the World Crypto Network, we do believe that someday, maybe with more Patreon donations, maybe with more Tallycoin and Bitcoin fundraising, or maybe with just some good old fashioned advertising, that we could somehow keep the World Crypto Network going despite the downturn, and that this could be my job, talking to you. And I think it's a sweet job. Uh, doesn't pay very much, but other than that, a very good job. And yes, work gives you purpose. So it is good to have a job. It is good to have work. It's also good to get the social aspect. In a lot of ways, my social aspect is hanging out here with you guys. When you're suffering, I'm suffering. When I'm suffering, you're suffering. If you're listening to this, you're probably suffering. Buddhism jokes. That's a long one home. That's a way homer. But yeah, it's good to have work. It's good to have a project, and it's good to be helping people in some way, even if it's just talking to them about Bitcoin, which I think is helpful. We even had another donation, looks like, on our Tallycoin fundraiser. We had our 24th donor. Still your chance to be in the first 30 donors to this fundraiser. Donated today, 0.0029845. Thanks so much for your donation. Check it out at Tallycoin. We are up to $282, 14% towards our goal of $2,000. And we're going to go ahead and pause now, drink some water, let you get out your Bitcoin address, figure it out, Bitcoin wallet, send a little Bitcoin in there, maybe 10 bucks, 20 bucks. That'd be good. If we had $17 and I don't know, 89 cents, we would get to 300. So let's see if we can get that. Been talking a lot today, tiring out my voice. Not enough callers. Start a little early. Some people were suggesting we could start the show later in the day. What time of the show or what time would work for you to call into the show? You can let me know here. Maybe let me know on Twitter. Maybe I'll put a poll up. But we could try a late night Bitcoin talk show. That might be fun. We've done a couple of those. It's fun to mix it up. The idea being here, we're kind of in the 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. slot. It's a good slot for West Coast, at least, for people going to work, people at work. Other parts of the world we're on at different times of day, so can't control that, but can always try other options. Also, it always helps to give us a thumbs up and a share. You might notice we put a different title on these episodes. We got a lot of views yesterday, perhaps because the different title. So it's not something you always want to do, but if it works, right? You can't argue with success. And they're saying evening might be fun, late night be better. They're saying this is a good time in Europe. Remember, this is evening in Europe. So anyone that's working in Europe has plenty of time to call the show. Dolphin is watching at 2x speed. He's trying to catch up. Flying Hayes asks, "Can I send half of a Satoshi with a Lightning Network?" I'm not sure that it goes down beyond 8 decimal places right now. So I think you could definitely send perhaps a Satoshi with a Lightning Network, which is pretty cool. But I'm not sure you could send half because it doesn't go down. Technically, I'm not sure if they can add more digits to Bitcoin. I think eventually it might be necessary, so they might have to figure that out. It's more difficult than I think. I think it's just adding zeros, but I think there's a lot more there and a lot more to it. So right now, maybe you could send me 2 halves of a Satoshi, and I'll pay you back the other half later. So that'll work. You can always do 2x and 2 of them instead of 1. Crypto Raptor agrees sensationalism sells. And they say, stream 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. That's like a normal talk radio show and half of a normal workday. It does sound a good deal, but you also have to get ready for the shows. There's a lot to it. But we can always try out an evening show. These are kind of end of the year shows too here. A lot of people already on vacation. A lot of people can't see anything but Christmas. So the year is ending. It's always a cold time. It's always a time of reflection. All the TV shows go off the air and start airing best of the year episodes and so on and so forth. So it's fun to still be with you guys in these times when most people are going on break and closing out the books for the year. We're going to close out the books for these years right here on the World Crypto Network. So be sure to donate down below. Be sure to follow, like, share, all those kind of things. We're going to be back tomorrow with another exciting episode of Bitcoin Talk Show. Maybe even a late evening episode. We've been talking to Dan, Crypto Raptor, trying to get him to come on the show. I think we need to do kind of a fundraising show for Dan because he made all these great videos about Bitcoin with the music and the rapping and the singing. And it takes a really long time, much longer than people think, to put these kind of videos together. So we might do a Crypto Raptor celebration show. That might be fun for an evening show. Looks like we've still got a question or two in the chat. Let's see if we can do that. Thoughts on Nate Senior writes, thoughts on a huge short squeeze pump from short sellers taking profits before taxes, the opposite of what we saw last year. Well, I mean, the problem is if they're taking profits before taxes, they're selling. And if they're selling, they're pushing the market down. So that would be tough. They say, whoa, Lightning supports M Satoshi, 1,000th of a Satoshi. So you could send half a Satoshi on Lightning thanks to their support of M Satoshi. So that's pretty cool. Thanks, Mark, for telling that. I hadn't heard that about the Lightning Network. That's very cool. As far as a short squeeze, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we did see one recently. Everyone was shorting it, so they drove the price up to wreck everyone's shorts. So that's definitely a possibility. They're saying bring back that teddy bear that did crypto news. Oh, I love This Week in Bitcoins. That guy was the best. He's based out of Indonesia, and he still does videos under the title Tastylicious Studios. He doesn't do Bitcoin videos anymore, but they've done a great. They're just so fun over there. They can do all these effects like lightsabers and shooting bullets and stuff like that. So they're kids. I'm sure they're 20-year-old kids, but they get to do all these fun videos. And for a while, he did these incredible This Week in Crypto videos with a little talking puppet that would tell you the Bitcoin news. It was super fun. You can check them out in the World Crypto Network archives. We have about maybe 30 or 40 of them. They're pretty great. They're saying they placed 100,000 Satoshis in compound interest accounts. He plans on checking them in 10 years. That sounds good, as long as the website you put them in keeps them and stays open. That can be very difficult. They want to bring back the Dirt Bucket Challenge. Oh, yeah. A few years ago, we did the Dirt Bucket Challenge. It was a kind of a parody response to the Ice Bucket Challenge, which was a very big deal. A lot of people dump themselves with ice buckets. I dumped myself with a dirt bucket because I wanted to point out that California has no water to waste on ice bucket challenges. So it was funny stuff. And think this is about it. We'll try. Maybe we'll do a later show tonight or a show tomorrow. Just keep giving us those thumbs up and those shares. Be sure to subscribe to the World Crypto Network. Don't forget, I'm wearing all Bitcoin clothing. Check out Bitcoin Las Vegas. This guy's got cool shirts. Check out the Satoshi sweatshirt. Guys in Denver gave me that. Shout out to those guys. Shout out to the Bitcoin Vegas guys. Check out the Maltese Falcon. Yes, that is the real one, the actual Maltese Falcon. But we're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.